Hi everybody, this is Janie from Janie's Journals. I am starting a new project and I thought I would take you along with me through a series of videos from start to finish on this junk journal. I've wanted to do this for a long time and it's a fairy junk journal. I have been saving all kinds of stuff. I had a huge box full of things that I actually had to go through and pare some of it down because I had saved way too much. And I finally said, okay, enough gathering. It's time to just get this done, make this happen. So when I was at Hobby Lobby the other day, I happened to be going through the aisle where they have these letters. This is the letter U. And it's just those white chipboard. It's like a 1/4 of an inch thick. And I looked at it and I turned it upside down and I thought, you know, that would be a good size for a fairy door for the cover of my journal. So I picked this up and all I did to it is just used some regular, this is just brown craft paint, folk art paint. This is burnt umber and you can get this at Walmart or any craft stores. So I just painted it. And then I decided that I knew I wanted to have like a bunch of sticks to form an arch above the door, but I didn't want to mess this up. So what I decided to do was to cut the shape out. I traced it and cut it out of a really heavy cardstock, so that way if I messed it up, it's no big deal. I could get rid of it, and then when I finally settled on one that I liked, I could glue it onto this. Well, the first one I did I like, so I didn't have to worry so much about it. But this is the arch that I did for the doorway, or the frame, I guess you'd call it. There are a bunch of videos out there on how to make these faux bricks. I used chipboard pieces and just layered paint on it, and I think it turned out pretty cute. I'd never tried any kind of a technique like that. And then underneath the upper part of it, I had this paper that I made, oh gosh, it's been several months ago, and it's just brown paper, and I put tissue over it. I kind of scrunched the tissue up, and I used all different kinds of alcohol inks and just splattered them on here. Made it real messy looking, but for the background of these twigs, I think it worked out well. And I have an idea. I'm going to be putting moss and other things around this as well. So I had that part, and I thought this is, you know, gonna require a very special door. So I had these. Now these are just pieces of an old produce crate. I work in a pharmacy, and it is inside of a grocery store here in town. And they had a bunch of these crates that they was just going to pitch, and I grabbed a couple and held on to them just to see if I could, you know, mess with them, do anything with them. They're not real thick, and they're somewhat, you can move them around a little bit. So I took those and I split them, and all I did was just literally broke them like this and broke them. And then I sprayed on the on both sides of it. I used clear, what do they call it, clear varnish or clear spray sealant, I guess, that made it turn a little bit darker than what it originally was, which it looks pretty. I like it. So I had these, and I decided that I would take these and use my sanding block and just sand, you know, the edges of them. And then I used I've got some wire cutters here that I use to just snip them off. They break off real easy. There, see? They break off super easy. And I even like this edge, you know, the way that this looks. And once you sand it, it looks very rustic. Look at that. And I like it. I like it a lot. So that's what I did. Just made a mess here. And I made all of these little pieces so that I could shape a door. And here is the door that I made. See all the strips of that produce crate. And then I cut 2 of them to go across here. And the window is actually just, I used some, I think it was Wild Honey Distress Stain or something, and put it on white paper. And then I just cut this piece out with 2 hole punches, and I put another piece of corrugated cardboard in there so that it makes it stand up, gives it a little bit more dimension. And then in the center of it, I don't know if you can really see that, maybe if I move it a little around there, you can kind of see it. I used this Crackle Accents, and I put it over the top and let that dry, and it almost looks like, you know, an old window, which is kind of what I wanted. Put just a little ribbon on this handle, and this is a brad that I punched a hole through the wood. My Crop-A-Dile punches through this like butter. I'll show you that too, because I mean it, there it is. It punches a hole so easily through there. So I punched the hole, I put the brad in there, and then I put these little rivets. I don't even know where I got these. I've had them for forever. But they are these, there's brads in there too, but they're like these little rivets. And that's what I used as like nail heads on the door. And then I used this black ink right here. It's Parker Quink, I think is what they call it. Sit up there so you can see it. I used this and a thin paintbrush, and I just went around the holes to make it look aged right there. And then just a few spots on the door, I went up and down where there was a gap and you could see the paper I used I laid these on. I just ran a paintbrush with brown paint in there. But I think that the door turned out really cute, and I love the way that the bottom of it is uneven. I think it just looks adorable. So this is the plan so far. I have that done, and then, oh, and the inside of the door will open this way. It's going to open like this, and then the inside of it, I did the same thing. I did, you know, those strips of that produce crate. I used 2 pieces of a twig and hot glued those on for a handle. And then the little window looking outside shows a little fairy, as if you were, you know, looking out the window and you could see her. So that is the doorway that I have done so far. I found this paper. It's not, let me see if I can grab it here. I think I still have it out. Well, there it is. Okay, so this, it's called Craftex Craft Paper Fabric. And it's really thick, like it's almost leatherish, but the back side of it is paper, so it's real flexible. And that's what I cut just these 2 little shapes out of. And I made my rivets here out of Nouveau Crystal Drops. This is, what color is this? Metallic gold. So I used those, and that's what I'm going to use to attach the door onto the little frame here. And then when you open it, I'm going to put, you know, some little fairies or something in here. So got this far on the door, loving how it's looking, and decided that this is really setting me up for tremendous stress, because if the door is going to be this cute, everything else has to be extra special too. So I have been messing around with how to do the cover, and I wanted a cover that looked similar to tree bark. I literally went out and got this piece of bark from the ground. I did not take this off my tree. It was on the ground, and I pulled that off of there so that I could kind of use it as an inspiration. And I tried my first attempt. I have these, it's just brown paper. I mean, you can buy it in rolls, the craft paper. It's not hard to find at all. I happen to get these in the bottom of our totes that we order, that our order comes in at work. So I've got a ton of these things. So the first time I tried it, and I used some Distress Oxide pads, and I wrinkled up my paper. I just crumbled it up in my hands, and I smoothed it out, and I run that pad across there. Is this the first one? Yes. So I run my Distress Oxide pad across it, and then I crumbled it up, and I opened it up again, smoothed it out, and used a different color. And this is the pattern that came up. And I thought, well, it doesn't look like tree bark. It almost looks like some kind of animal print or something. So that one I wasn't too thrilled with. I'm definitely going to be able to use it. And then the second one that I tried, I used different colors of this apple barrel craft paint. And I used, let's see, well, there was a nutmeg brown, there was an ivory. I used a little bit of black, definitely used that brown. I just kind of mixed it up. I would put a layer of it on there, and then I would dry it with my heat gun. I would crinkle it again, open it up, smooth it out, use another layer of paint, and with a fairly dry brush, this is the brush that I used. So I just kind of pounced into my paint and pounced off on a paper towel so that it was really dry, and just kept going over it and layering it. And I like it. It's definitely usable for other projects, but not necessarily for the cover of this journal. So then I thought, in order to make it look like this bark, I needed my crinkles to not be just wadded up. I needed them to be more up and down like this bark is. So this is the last one I did, and I'm so happy with it. And what I did different is, instead of just wadding my paper into a ball, I rolled it this way and then I twisted it. And then I would open it up and, you know, smooth it out. Use a layer of paint, dry brushing again. And I started with my lightest color and I ended with the darkest. And then I had to put a little bit more of the light color on there again because it was almost a little bit too dark. But I think that looks so much closer. I don't know if you can really see it. It's kind of hard because of the lighting here. But that's what I wound up with, and I am just as pleased as I can be with this one. So this is going to be part of my cover for my junk journal. And the next thing I'm going to do is start working on the pages themselves. So keep keep an eye out. I'll be posting that video at some point this week, and I sure do appreciate you guys stopping by. I'll catch you on the next one.